It's Friday Farm Vlog. Welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome to Friday Farm Vlog. And I wanted to let you guys know that we have sold our rooster babies, all except one. But this one is leaving this afternoon. So all of our 10-week-old roosters, so all of our baby roosters from our first hatch of the season. We had another one go home this week to a wonderful woman named Sandy, and she's gonna give them a great home. And this one here will be leaving this afternoon to another great home, so I'm happy to report that this rooster coop will be empty as of this afternoon, which is good because our chick coop is awfully full. And so very soon our rooster chicks out in the chick coop are gonna be moving out here once they're ready to be off of heat.
Surprise.
You got a surprise for me?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yes. Found it.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
He's silly. He's a silly puppy.
He's on my leg.
Oh, he licked your armpit. Thank you for the beautiful flower. The chicks here are getting so big. They are definitely outgrowing this coop. But they are so friendly. They are growing so nicely. And they're gonna make wonderful additions to the homes that they're going to. We put up this carport structure that we're going to be using for the netting that's going to go over this chick coop here, so that they will have safer access out here to play. The chicks have been coming out for supervised visits outdoors, but once we have the full netting over this top, it'll be so much better and safer for them. The netting that I had just wasn't durable enough and started breaking down, and so I need a heavy-duty commercial netting, and so I'm gonna get the same netting that I have over my chicken coop because that has lasted a couple seasons now and is doing great. So I'm just gonna get the same kind and cover this whole area, and I'm going to use this carport that my Uncle Rainey was giving away. Thanks, Uncle Rainey. And my dad went and picked it up, brought it here, helped me assemble it. And then my husband helped me to get it into the best position that we could get it with this scoop so that we can drape the net over. And so we've got it set up now. I'm just waiting on that net to come in the mail, and then we will get this project finished up here, and these chicks can have safe access out here. That's a beautiful rooster you got there.
Yeah. He's on one hand.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's good at balancing.
And he's good at jumping off.
They're going right to eat the plants over there. Ooh, nice flying. hard to believe it, but Miss Amelia had her baby 6 weeks ago, and they are doing great. Miss Amelia needs a little bit of maintenance done, right? Yeah. We're gonna be doing a copper bolus today, some selenium supplements, and she needs a hoof trim. Hello. We want to make sure she keeps up with her vitamins, minerals, and supplements. Right? Cute little babies. I can't believe it. 6 weeks old. That went so fast. Yeah. Guys are going to be due for more vaccines soon. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, Mama's going to come up on the stand because that's the easiest for me to be able to do her stuff. The supplements that I'm using for Miss Amelia and the hoof trimmers, I'm going to leave those linked below in the description, so if you wanted to check them out, you certainly can. Are you ready? Yeah, you don't seem to mind the selenium too much, so shouldn't be too bad, right? Alright, the selenium, she's getting 4 mLs. And then these cool little capsules with copper rods inside. You ready for this? Sorry. Oh, I know that wasn't fun. Wash down the taste. And then she needs her hooves trimmed. So while she's enjoying that green, I'm going to give her a quick trim. Now I had these larger hoof trimmers that I've been using that I had replaced the original ones I had of these. And I find these to be just too long. If you look at the difference, these are just too long for my Nigerian dwarf hooves. So I was having a really hard time trimming with these. So I am switching back to this kind. And my last pair I accidentally left out in the elements and they rusted. So that was on me, but I grabbed a new pair and I'm hopeful this will do the trick. Oh yes, it's like night and day. Like what a difference. It's so much easier to use these. They're sharper, they're small so I can get in the crevices. Much better. When you're trimming hooves, you should always wear gloves. And by gloves, I just mean to protect your hands so you don't stab yourself. So she's just getting a little sweet feed snack with a little bit of alfalfa pellets and sunflower seeds. It's her favorite. And honestly, her hooves are really not bad. They just need a little trim along the edges and on the front toes. And that's it. She's done. Good girl. You did it! And nice new fancy feet. Oh, nice and flat. That's all we're going for, is just nice, flat, uniform feet. keep her comfortable, right? So I just trim the hooves as needed. I check them frequently just to make sure they're not getting too overgrown. I personally learned how to do it at the University of Rhode Island. They had a whole herd of sheep and they used to send the students out, teach us how to do it, and then we would just do the whole herd of sheep. So we got a lot of practice on sheep. A little bit different in terms of how you hold them, but as far as hooves, the goats' hooves, to me they look the same and they trim the same. So that's how I've continued to do it, just trimming that outer edge, trimming the inside, making it as flat as possible, cutting just the tips off the hooves, making them uniform so that everything is a nice flat, not elongated hoof. Sorry. And that should keep them happy on their feet. Oh my goodness, the baby's gotta go out. So I like to start with the outer edge, trim the front. Now with Nancy, she's suspected pregnant, and when they are pregnant, like when Amelia Bedelia was just pregnant, I usually do the front hooves and then I wait a couple days, do the back hooves. I try not to stress them out too much when they're pregnant, so kept it to just the front two hooves for Nancy today. So we'll give the goats a break. Let's go inside. I got some incubator experiments to show you. I have an experiment going on in these two incubators and I'm really excited about it because I'm trying 2 new ways of incubating. So same Manna Pro incubators that I love, but I find trying to keep the humidity stable to be difficult when it comes to incubation. So I'm looking for a better way to keep that humidity stable. And so far, I'm really happy with these 2 experiments. So let me show you here what we're doing. The first one, I am trying what's called dry hatching. Dry hatching is where you incubate your eggs without adding distilled water to the incubator until lockdown, which is the last 3 days of hatching. And so right now this incubator is dry. There is no distilled water in here. It has 22 eggs in here. So I have not added any distilled water into this incubator here. I am strictly keeping it dry. The humidity, interestingly enough, has stayed at about 30%. I have seen it go to 29%, I've seen it go to 31%, but the majority of the time it's been staying right at that 30%. I honestly expected with dry hatching that the humidity level would fluctuate a little bit with the air humidity, but it has been amazing how the humidity has stayed right at that 31, 29, 30%, right in that area. Now ideally I like to keep my incubators at 50% humidity during incubation for the first 18 days. But I just recently candled these eggs and they're developing just fine. And the air sac is progressing as I would expect it to at this point. So I'm going to continue this experiment and we'll see what we end up as far as development when I candle them again, and also see what the hatch rate is. But I gotta say, this whole hands-off, not having to add any distilled water has been really simple. I set the eggs, I check daily and make sure that everything is looking okay. I candle as usual, but I'm not adding water 3 to 4 times a day like I do normally when I'm not dry hatching. So if this is a viable method, this certainly makes incubation more simple. Now in my second incubator, I wanted to do an experiment where I am adding the distilled water but I wanted to find a way to make it more stable because I felt like I was adding distilled water. It would take hours before I would get a true humidity reading on it, and I'd have to adjust it from there, sometimes not, but it was always this kind of up down, and then overnight there would be a huge dip in humidity where it would drop down into the 30%. The water seemed like it would dry up or get really low, and then in the morning I'd have to fill it back up again. It would spike, and then it would slowly throughout the day level off where I want it to be, but it was a lot of up and down, and I feel like that humidity change in spikes like that and drops was not ideal for incubating eggs. And so I want to find a way to make it so that this humidity level is nice and stable and doesn't require so much maintenance, because I find the humidity part to be a bit nerve-wracking when it comes to incubating because of all these spikes and drops, and you're worried it's going to affect the eggs and their hatch rate. So that's where the shoelace method comes in. So with this incubator, I took a shoelace and I cleaned that shoelace first. I put it in a diluted bleach water. I let it sit for 10 minutes so it could get sanitized, and then laid it out to dry. Once it was dry, I fed it into the incubator. Now I have two shoelaces in here. The first one is fed into well A, which is on the inner part of the incubator. The second shoelace is fed through well B, which is on the outer skirts of the incubator inside. And for the first 18 days, I'm only using the shoelace in well A. And then on day 18, the last 3 days of lockdown, I'll be using both shoelace A and shoelace B. Now so far I am only 4 days into this incubation process, and I have had to fill up this little teacup with distilled water once. Today the water is low, so I'm going to fill it back up with water. The humidity right now is at 52%, and for over the last few days it has stayed right at that 50%, 49 through 52. It's definitely like stayed right in that close humidity range. Overnight there's no drops, there's no spikes. As long as I keep distilled water in this teacup, the shoelace wicks the water up through here and into the incubator, and it just seems to keep it at an even humidity, which is amazing. So I'm going to add in distilled water so that it can continue keeping its humidity up. I have both vents halfway, which seems to be working. In the past I've had to open it up because the humidity has spiked too much, and played with that a bit throughout the first 18 days. But in this instance, keeping it halfway closed has worked out well for both experiments. I haven't candled these yet because we're only 4 days in, but I am very curious to see how they do with having this distilled water wicked in by a shoelace. But I like what I'm seeing for numbers here. And it is easier than the traditional way that I was doing it based off the instructions that come with the incubator, where you just fill this little tiny well with distilled water as needed, which was often. So far so good. Really happy with these experiments. I would like to do another experiment in incubator number 3 over here. So if you have an idea of something you'd like me to try for a third experiment, or you have another recommendation for controlling humidity, I am looking for a third experiment to try in that incubator. I do have heating pads under both of these incubators because I find that works best with this incubator to help stabilize the temperature and keep the temperature from fluctuating too much. However, in a previous experiment I did use a seedling heat mat for incubation, and honestly that worked out well too. I did not have the ability to change the setting from low, medium to high like I do with the heating pad, but I did have success with it. I did have a good hatch rate with it, and so this is a viable option for keeping a warm temperature area underneath your incubator. I didn't find the temperature fluctuating too much either with this. I was keeping track of it with a thermometer. So this is a viable option if a heating pad is not something you're comfortable with using. These seedling heat mats are meant to be kept on for a longer period of time than a heating pad is, so that's an option as well. I did have viewers reach out saying that You can cover your incubators with a blanket as long as you keep the vent clear, and that will hold in the heat and keep the temperature from fluctuating. So that's something I would like to try at some point. Maybe that's what I'll do in this third incubator. Others have said using the styrofoam containers that comes with the packaging of the incubator, that you can use that to hold in the temperature. I don't have that, so that's not one that I'll be trying, but I do love getting comments from viewers and sharing things that have worked for them for incubation, and so keep those coming. I really appreciate them. So thanks for joining me today on this Friday farm vlog, and if you haven't started your farm yet, what are you waiting for? Get your farm on.
1, 2, 3, 4. Do you want to farm? A wicked awesome farm. Watch this channel to learn what to do. We love to farm and we'll show you. Yeah, welcome to our show.